Hey, this is Jeff Morris from the Redwood chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm the chapter director for the chapter, and we're here on this Friday evening to have some conversations and also to give you a sense, both the folks from the chapter that are with us and also some of our supporters on what we've been up to the last few years and some of our shining star projects. And then also hopefully going to be sharing some additional conversation after the 4 presentations that we've got here to talk about other things that are important to us, things that are important to you, and get a sense of some strategy and direction for the future together. So I want to just introduce a couple of people before we get rolling. Victoria Brandon, our chapter director, or a chapter chair, is with us. She'll be presenting on the Berryessa Snow Mountain expansion. Tom Roth is also with us. He's our conservation committee director. He'll be presenting on the Bay Area Sea Level Rise project. I will be presenting on some public lands legislation that we've been collectively working on over the past 8 years now, at least. And but first and foremost, we are joined by 2 of our most exciting volunteers, Alyssa Koresh and Emily Bitt from Napa County, who are amazing people and have been doing a lot of fabulous work in Napa County. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Emily and Lisa. And team, let's go and hear what you've got in store for us this evening.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Morris. So we have prepared a slide deck today just to kind of share what we've been up to and how it relates to the Redwood chapter of the Sierra Club. So first, first, to start us off, I guess we can just introduce ourselves. So my name is Emily Bitts. I'm a current senior at American Canyon High. I live in Napa County, and I was a Napa Sierra Club student intern for the 2021 year.
And my name is Alyssa Koresh. I'm a senior at Napa High School, and I also live in Napa County. And just like Emily, I was the Napa Sierra Club intern for the year 2021. So here, just kind of an overview of what we're going to cover in this presentation. We're going to go over the pre-internship, so what our interests were prior and what we plan to do. Then we're going to go over what we actually did during the internship, and then we're going to talk about the post-internship, so what we've learned and our experiences and what we want to do moving forward. And lastly, I wanted to talk about Schools for Climate Action and our projects. That is pretty much connected with this internship because Emily and I are the co-president of Napa Schools for Climate Action. And we've just gotten a lot of support from Napa Sierra Club as we participated in the various projects and initiatives that we've done.
So to really start us off, we'll just go over like what the internship program is. So it was started by, of course, the Napa Sierra Club X Committee or Executive Committee, and it's offered to high school and college students within Napa or Napa County that are looking to expand their environmental outreach and just better serve their community. And how we got involved, so the current chair, Nick Charonich, also happens to be one of our advisors for our group, Napa Schools for Climate Action. And he opened up this opportunity to us last year, around this time last year. He just said that, like he thought we would be a good fit, and we agreed, and now we're here. But we were always interested in working with their executive committee because there's a lot of people on it that we know and we admire. And we also thought it would be a good opportunity because there has been certain projects that we've always wanted to pursue, but we never felt like we had the resources or the opportunities or just like the means to do so. And the Napa Sierra Club really opened it up for us. So just pre-internship. So at the very beginning, so to be an intern for the Napa Sierra Club, there are certain things like certain certain things that you had to do. And one of them was attending like a climate advocacy training, assisting an event hosted by another organization, just being involved in local government. And there were also projects that we were allowed to begin to pursue, things that we were passionate about and we brought to the table. And for me, that was a climate change curriculum that I wanted to begin hosting for younger kids because I really like to work with young kids. And then I also was interested in managing the social media presence of the Napa Sierra Club, just like learning more about analytics and stuff like that. So those were just some of the plans that I had going into this program.
And as for me, I had some similar projects since there are the ones that we have to complete. So just like Emily, I had to assist at an event hosted by another organization, attend meetings hosted by the Climate Action Committee, city councils, etc., and attending a climate advocacy training. And both Emily and I did do that. And as for my own personal interest, I'm a digital artist. So I wanted to create digital illustrations that related to climate action, climate change, etc. And I also wanted to write articles that were either educational or inspirational. And moving on to what we actually did during the year.
So for me, I began to pursue my workshop project. So I wanted to host interactive Zoom sessions that were catered towards elementary school students to help them better learn about climate change. I feel like the first encounter that I really had with like the environment or like environmental science was learning about El Nino in 5th grade. And that was something that stuck with me, even though we had only learned about it for like a day. And so I thought it would be interesting to try to reach out to younger kids because, you know, learning really starts when you're young. And I also love little kids. So the other thing that I wanted to was visit local landmarks in Napa County because Napa County is rich with so much culture and nature. It's really beautiful. So I wanted to visit local landmarks, and I dabble in photography a little bit. So I had just been interested in going to these landmarks and taking photos and, you know, potentially putting together a collage or just learning more about the place I live. And then of course I wanted to manage the social media presence, which wasn't like one of my major projects. So for the workshop sessions, I ended up creating a Lorax themed slideshow. So this all had to be online, of course, but I created a Lorax themed slide deck about climate change, and I was able to present it to 3 classes over my spring break. So the classes were asked to watch the Lorax film beforehand, and then going in, we just played some trivia. We did fun things like a climate change Padlet. A Padlet is, I'm not sure if they still have the responses on here, but so this was from 8 months ago, but a Padlet is an interactive website where I sent the link to the kids, and then they were able to go into the Padlet and type their answers. So these were all answers from kids within one of the sessions. And yeah, they were just answering my questions. And then at the very end, every single workshop that I wanted to host, I wanted to have some creative aspect or component. So for the Lorax one, we actually painted truffula trees. So here is an image. So the painting on the left is a watercolor painting. And then for the kids who didn't have or lost their watercolor sets, we also did like a crayon or marker version. So this is an image from one of the sessions. As you can see, all of the kids are holding up their watercolor truffula trees. It was such a fun experience. I had a lot of fun connecting with the kids, and they were super engaged even though it was online. So that was really nice. And then as for taking photos of local landmarks, I was able to visit a few of them, not as many as I'd have liked to, but it was super fun. I went to the Newell Open Space in American Canyon. That's the photo over here on the left. I went to Alston Park and the Archer Taylor Preserve in Napa. And then I also was able to visit the petrified forest in Calistoga. I also had read, I was lent a book from one of the Napa Sierra Club executive committee members. It was about the history of Napa County, and it was super interesting. So this was like one of my favorite projects as well.
As for me, I ended up writing an article about the local wildfires. So essentially, I just talked about the recent rise in wildfires over these last couple of years, why it's happening, and what people can do personally to help. And along with this article, which was published in the Napa Register, I also drew this art piece. I took a reference photo in Austin Park, and then I just essentially kind of put it together along with like an image of a fire, and I was able to use that reference to then draw this. And in addition to that, I've also been working on the educational website. I'm almost done with it, but it's targeted at kids in their early elementary school years. So kids ages between 8 and 10, somewhere around there. And on the website, I'm gonna have these video presentations, and I also drew pieces for the coloring book, so parents can just print them out and the kids can use their pencils or markers to draw. And there's also a list of eco-friendly projects that they can do and kind of guides to go along with them. And I'm almost done with it, and once I am, I hope to distribute it to some parents that live in Napa. And lastly, along with Emily, we've attended many different local meetings, ranging from the Climate Action Committee to city councils, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
We know we're running short on time, but one of our largest projects was our Summer Kids Workshop. We hosted it from June to August, and it was offered to Napa County kids, any Napa County kid could participate, but it was catered towards more kindergartners through 5th graders. And we had created 3 different lessons, and we hosted 4 sessions, and it was all taking place on Zoom.
Yeah, just to quickly go over that, we had 3 different lessons. The first one was about bees, the second one was about the sea life, and the last one was about outdoor education. And we had these kinds of presentations along with some kind of creative piece to go along with it at the end. So yeah, that's what it looked like.
So this was an image of all of the items that we had purchased or gathered over the summer, because each workshop session had some type of activity or hands-on component. We really wanted to promote like outdoor education and getting kids outside, especially because we had such like a crazy year being on Zoom for school and just the entire pandemic. So we really wanted this summer to kind of be fun and engaging for kids. So here was everything that we had gathered. So one of our workshops was called Let's Get Buzzy, and that was around bees. So we created a little bee saver guide. It had information about local bees, how things that you can do to like save the bees. It was really cool. And Elisa designed a coloring page for the kids. So it's just little bees and flowers and whatnot. We made beeswax crayons for them. And then in the session, we also did a wildflower planting activity with them. And the kids that showed up to those, we hosted 2 sessions of this one, and the kids that showed up had a really great time. Some of them have like sent us pictures of their wildflowers now that are like still growing, and it's really cool. For the Under the Sea one, we did watercolor painting, and we gave each kid a little tub or a little container of sea salt, and we talked about how like that relates to the ocean and everything. And then kids were also encouraged to go outside because we gave them chalk to draw life-size sea creatures on cement and whatnot. And then our most fun workshop was our Fun in the Sun one. Elisa created these nature journals. She made her own recycled paper, and we put together the journals and we gave it to them so that they could do nature journaling. And we also played some bingo. We encouraged them to go outside and like look at their surroundings, and it was really fun. And then here is a picture of some of the, we forgot to scratch out their addresses, but this is a picture of like some of the packets that we had sent out, and that's one of the bee workshops that we hosted.
And I know we have like 1 minute left, so we're just gonna quickly go over kind of what we've been working on with the Schools for Climate Action and what we plan to do in the near future. So here are some pictures from this past year. Emily and I do a lot of work together, so we've gotten pretty close, and it's been a ton of fun. But besides that, we've also been pursuing a project called Fossil Free Future. And for that one, we've been attending city council meetings and presenting our asks. So we kind of we landed an agenda point at the American Canyon City Council, meeting Calistoga City Council and Santa Elena City Council. We also presented to the Climate Action Committee, and we'll plan to go to other cities as well. And basically, we're just asking them to pass what's it called? Sorry, a permanent ban on new gas stations, and declare a climate emergency, as well as support a resolution on protecting Napa's woodlands and forests. And we've seen some progress, but there's still a lot more work to do. So yeah.
And that really concludes our presentation. We have been so honored and grateful for this experience and this opportunity to work with the Napa Sierra Club and work with the Redwood chapter. And so yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight.
Yes, thank you. It's been a ton of fun, and it's been a wonderful opportunity.
I mean, Emily and Elisa, I cannot just be prouder to be involved with the two of you. And there are adults, you know, across our region who have never presented at city council meetings, and you guys are right there doing it. So we're so grateful and really looking forward to your next steps. Now we can support you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super work. All right. Well, that's a great start to our presentations this evening. And next up is our own chapter chair, Victoria Brandon, who is going to be presenting about the expansion of the Berryessa Snow Mountain Monument, right?
National Monument.
National Monument. All right,
Yeah.
Victoria, I'm going to leave it to you.
Okay, so thank you, Jeff, and thank you so much, Alyssa and Emily. You're absolutely fabulous. And now I've got to come after you. Oh, okay, so we will start the screen share right away. If I can presumably find it. So as Jeff indicated, what I wanted to. There it is. All right. So I'm aside from being chapter chair, I live in Lake County, and I've been working on local conservation issues for a long time, with my #1 priority for 7 years being the creation of what eventually turned out to be the Berryessa Snow Mountain National Monument. And that was actually created by presidential proclamation in 2015. But naturally, there are special places in the general area that we were not able to include in the monument. And one of them is a really special place called Walker Ridge. This is located on the border between Lake and Colusa counties, just north of Highway 20. It's just east of Indian Valley Reservoir. It's about 8,000 acres altogether of BLM, Bureau of Land Management land. And it is an absolute marvel for biodiversity, which is one of the reasons the monument was created in the first place. This is largely because of the geology, which is quite complicated, but includes, among other things, a great deal of serpentine soil. And this is a wonderful habitat for rare plants because it is so hard to live there. Most plants just can't make it on serpentine, which has got strange mineral composition. And so the particular species that evolve there are really quite uncommon. And here is a little bit of what you'd like to see there. This is from Bear Valley, which is just to the east of Walker Ridge, and which is absolutely famous for its display in the spring. But there's also, and this is a little more about serpentine, that this is the state rock of California. It's a metamorphic process from what was ancient undersea crust, and it influences the habitat of everything that grows on those lands. Aside from rare plants and eye candy in the form of wildflowers, there's also a lot of other really spectacular things there. The views are just wonderful. To the top, you'll see in the snow-capped peak, that's Snow Mountain, the Snow Mountain Wilderness to the north. And at the bottom, you see the characteristic line of the Blue Ridge between Lake Berryessa and Yolo County. And all of this is visible from up on top of Walker Ridge. You can see Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen on a really good day. There are a lot of forests and woodland creatures, all interwoven in this very diverse landscape, including a lot of chaparral. It's a fire-dependent landscape, and it's burned many times, but it comes back strong from that. And you can see a few more examples of what you're likely to find up there. And it's got great diversity because of all the difference in the geology. And as you can see from this one in the upper left, that is a photograph of the year after one of the wildfires up there. And the black skeletons are a lot of manzanita that have been killed, their top growth has been killed by fire. They're going to come back from their roots, but the first year, everything is wide open and open for the flower display. So the California Native Plant Society has been very much concerned about this area for a long time, because they've identified at least 30 different rare plants there that are in their database of rare species. Some of them are globally rare, some of them are considered sensitive by the BLM. And for less than 8,000 acres, it's really unparalleled diversity for plants. So the BLM has for quite some time been wanting, not the BLM, the Native Plant Society has been urging the BLM to declare the whole area officially an area of critical environmental concern, which is an official designation, short form being ACEC. Aside from that, there's also a great diversity of wildlife up there, the usual birds, many, many bats. It's got mountain lions and bears. It's got both golden and bald eagles. It's a big migratory corridor for migratory birds. 80 species of butterflies have been identified, the greatest diversity of dragonflies in all of California. And it's a wildlife corridor between wild areas to the north and the south, allowing wildlife migration to give the animals a chance to take refuge against changes from climate change. Also great recreational opportunities. The access is very easy right off Highway 20. It's great for hiking, camping, hunting, bird watching, just about anything you could name. It's even used by hang gliders and rock hounds. It's of great cultural significance to several different Native American tribes, of which the Yochadihi tribe from Yolo County is probably the most important. This was a central area in their trade routes, and also it is to several of these groups really sacred ground. And so it's really important that whatever happens to it, the tribes have a voice in this. It also may be an opportunity for official co-management of the land. The problem is that there has been a whole series of proposals for wind energy development there. Even though it's not a prime wind development site, it's got really low energy generation capacity compared with some of the more important ones. And it's also got tremendous chances for environmental harm. Aside from birds and bats, which are known to be affected, it would also affect wildlife corridors and greatly increase fire risk, which is known to happen in areas with industrial wind development, increase erosion and serpentine soils, which oftentimes contain arsenic and other heavy metals, and impact the wetlands of both the North Fork of Cache Creek on one side and Bear Creek on the other, both of which are impaired already. So the Walker Ridge Alliance was formed in 2019 from several different environmental organizations and also participation from some local tribes to see what we can do to protect it permanently. Since it's not in the National Monument, the protections of the monument and the monument planning do not apply to the area. And so we were working on the various possibilities to conserve the ridge in perpetuity and make sure that it's managed to preserve its conservation values into the future. And the options that were seemed available, most readily available in the first place, were to name the area an area of critical environmental concern, as CNPS has been advocating for a number of years. Another alternative would be to get federal legislation naming it an ACEC. Or the third, that seemed like a really good opportunity, was to add it to the National Monument. And we brought, here is a picture of what that would involve. The area that's striped diagonally is an area that could be added to the monument. In any case, we reached out to Congressman John Garamendi about a year and a half ago and talked to him about these various alternatives and asked for his assistance. And he said that he definitely supported preserving the area permanently, but what really turned him on was the idea of adding it to the monument. On that map, you can see Indian Valley Reservoir. All the yellow is the Bureau, is owned by, managed by BLM. The dotted area, I think my pointer will show. This dotted twisty area is the county line between Lake and Colusa counties. And it also is pretty close to where Walker Ridge Road runs. And the purple solid line, that's the existing eastern boundary of the monument. So what we worked with the congressman was legislation to add this striped area, which is about 4,000 acres, to the monument. And he also wanted to include provisions for co-management with the Ochadigi tribe and any of the Lake County tribes that were interested in participating. And also a provision requiring the federal agencies to complete a management plan for the whole various Snow Mountain National Monument. This was supposed to happen within a year or so of designation in 2015, but for various reasons, largely political, it didn't happen, and it is on hold at the moment. Both the BLM and the Forest Service want to move ahead, but some funding for this purpose would be really helpful. So Congressman Garamendi released a discussion draft of this legislation back in July, put it out for comments for 2 months, got more than 200 comments, of which all but one was positive. He also got a unanimous vote of support from the Lake County Board of Supervisors, which, since it's all in Lake County, is absolutely crucial. There doesn't seem to be anybody who's really opposed to this. A lot of people who are enthusiastic about making it happen, not only just for the protection of the land itself, but that's our original motivation, but for setting a precedent for native co-management. Co-management, which has taken place in the past, has been immediately adjacent to tribal trust lands, which is not necessarily where their ancestral homelands are. And also for expediting the planning for the monument, which it desperately needs. And so that's what's going on up there. We're really excited about it. The congressman has said he wants to introduce by the end of this month, which, if it happened, would be a wonderful Thanksgiving present as far as we're concerned. And we'll then move over to the federal realm and try to make it happen. And thank you so much for your watching me go on with all of this. We will have questions later, but for the moment, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Great. Well, thank you, Victoria. That's exciting news, and it's great having so many local advocates and also a friendly member of Congress that understands the needs and is able to move things like that forward. Super.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have that leadership.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm up next here. So let me do this. And okay. Well, it's an honor to be here with this team and with our supporters tonight, and especially our young interns. This is a quick view of our chapter territory to orient folks. We operate in all or part of 9 counties on the north coast of California, and I'm going to be talking tonight about a bill sponsored by Congressman Jared Huffman that some of our membership has been working on for the last 8 or 9 years. And some of these areas have been of potential wilderness designation have been looked at since the California Wilderness Bill was passed in 1964. There is a piece of legislation that has been moving through both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. It took a long time to get there. And the big milestones or pieces of this legislation are the 262,000 acres of wilderness designated lands that were not wilderness before, and 480 miles of stream being designated as wild and scenic rivers. This logo, Mountains and Rivers, is our coalition logo, and I would encourage folks to go to mountainsandrivers.org. And I'll repeat that at the end also to get more expansive updates on this legislation. So one of the cornerstone territories for the bill is the South Fork of the Trinity River, which is pictured here. And one of the key wilderness areas is Chinkapin, which is that area across the valley there, which contains the largest unprotected stand of old growth Douglas fir in California. So this legislation was introduced by Congressman Jared Huffman, represents the 2nd District in California, focuses on 4 counties, mainly Del Norte in the top left here, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity County. And these counties are all located in the Klamath Mountain Range, which is a very unique topographic and geologic mountain range that spans from Mendocino in the south into southern Oregon. Prior to 2012, Trinity County, which is where I reside, was located in the Eastern Congressional District, which is now represented by Congressman Lamalfa and previously by Congressman Herger, more of a conservative district. And so we were grateful with reapportionment in 2010 for the 2012 election cycle. And as a result, the bulk of the conservation proposals are located in Trinity with that shift in representation. And there's Victoria with our hero there. Let's see, get this slide to move. There we go. So I mentioned the Klamath Mountain Range before. Similar to the Walker Ridge, the Klamath Mountains have a significant amount of serpentine soil and other really unique geological features. And because of that, there's some really unique biodiversity in the area. It happens to have the 2nd highest level of conifer biodiversity, which are pines and firs, hemlocks, and other conifers. 2nd highest level in the world of conifer biodiversity is in the Klamath Mountains. The Klamath Mountains are the headwaters for the Trinity River, which is the largest tributary to the Klamath River itself. Big portions of the Eel, the Mad River, the Van Dusen, and also the south middle fork of the Smith River, and actually the North Fork of the Smith River, honestly, that comes in from Oregon. It's home to superlative recreation and scientific research resources. I've grown up in the Klamath my whole life. It's just an amazing place. So this bill also includes areas long considered for conservation, as I mentioned before. When reapportionment happened in 2010 and Mr. Huffman announced his intent to seek the office, the regional conservation community given his history, really flocked to him and really encouraged him to move something forward. And while we were interested in conservation, as is Representative Huffman, he also wanted to look at the span of all public lands issues if he was going to move a bill forward in the region. And this is a little personal item here. That's me when I was 7 years old with my great aunt Nell, who was born in the 1800s, actually. And the area to the right in the photo is, her name is Nellie Pattison. That's the Pattison roadless area. Again, local people have been valuing these areas for, almost a century now, and really understanding that some of these places need to be saved. Pattison, in fact, was included originally in the 1984 California Wilderness Bill. So it's been on many of our radar for a long time. So the bill includes three pieces. It includes restoration, recreation, and conservation. And I'll start with restoration first. I'm just checking my time here. Okay. Restoration, there are kind of three key components in the restoration piece. One, the big kahuna here, is the designation of a 700,000 acre South Fork Trinity Mad River Special Restoration Area. And the real focus of this is that in Trinity County and parts of Humboldt County, there was so much damage done from clear-cut logging, from the 50s through the 90s, honestly, but mostly into the 80s, that there is a significant amount of restoration work to do to actually get those territories back to where they are healthy and also not as fire prone as they are right now. Second piece of the restoration component is the establishment of actually a statewide partnership to clean up and restore illegal trespass marijuana grow sites, which have been an additional huge environmental challenge here locally. Nothing to do with the legal market. It's really the illegal trespass sites on public lands. And then the third component is reform of fire management strategies through the region. Right now, there is not a lot of coordination between national forests when there's a fire. And so we're trying to move some legislative language forward to help resolve that. Recreation, this just the big headline here is this bill, we think, is the most recreation-rich federal public lands legislation in California history. Countless miles of new trail and restored trail, designation of botanical areas, authorization of interagency visitor centers, designation of a Bigfoot trail, which highlights the conifer biodiversity throughout the region. There's some really great pieces in here, and anybody who loves the outdoors is going to enjoy this. And then the last, as really the centerpiece of the bill, is the designation of 262,000 acres of new wilderness and designation of 480 miles of streams and rivers as wild and scenic rivers. Just a few more shots of the South Fork Trinity here, moving from Trinity into Humboldt. This is Mad River Buttes, a proposed wilderness area in Humboldt County. This is a shot of Smith River in Del Norte County. And as you can see, some of the coastal areas here are a little bit more rainforest-like than the dry forests of the interior. Get my slide to move. There we go. This is the Little South Fork eel in Mendocino County. Photo is by Bob Wick, who is a well-known BLM photographer. So the ecologic importance of this territory is a little unheralded too, and I always like to highlight this. These forests are treasure troves for not only biodiversity, but also carbon and just the general health of the planet. This is Caribou Lakes in the Trinity Alps Wilderness. There's countless threatened and endangered species, which, as they go, we go. And so just really important to make sure that we are taking care of those key species so that we can actually survive as well. And then water, not only for fish and tributaries, but the Trinity Alps actually feeds through a diversion to the Sacramento River, the rest of the Central Valley with not only water, but power. It's probably the most economically rich water deliveries in California. There's another one of my favorite pieces of wildlife there, Pacific fisher. And of course, salmon, trout, and the other key fish of the territory. Legislative history has been active, thankfully, and we've had some great champions. This bill has passed the House of Representatives 3 times now due to the leadership of Congressman Huffman. It's been introduced twice in the U.S. Senate, once in 2020 by now our Vice President, then Senator Kamala Harris, and more recently by Senator Alex Padilla, who's been a strong champion for this bill. And we're hoping for passage this year, but the only way really politically that's going to happen is if it's attached to a piece of must-pass legislation, some kind of omnibus bill or something like that. So our volunteers have been active in development of this bill and the language and doing a lot of outreach. 5+ years of initial outreach before the bill was even introduced across the region, which gave Congressman Huffman the political capital locally to be able to move it forward. Significant conversations with tribes in the region, as Victoria said. We need to be deferential and making sure that the First Peoples of this country are on board with the directions that we're taking and being able to support them. And we've got strong environmental and recreation support. And I have one little surprise here for Victoria, especially. One of the areas that we talked about with the Karuk tribe and actually removed some territory from this bill at their request was close to ketamine. And this is a picture of ketamine here, which is the center of the universe for the Karuk tribe. And yesterday, I saw on Facebook that Congressman Huffman introduced a bill to transfer 1,000 acres from the USDA to the Department of Interior to be held in trust for the Karuk tribe. So there have been some really interesting outcomes from our process in this legislation. We talked to the Karuk tribe extensively during this and helped them develop some of these ideas. And one of them has moved forward in this form. So extremely proud of that activity. Lots of conservation support across the region. And we're almost at the finish line. So I would really encourage, if you're watching, if you're interested, visit mountainsandrivers.org and learn more about the bill and sign up for the mailing list and help us get this thing through. Thank you, and happy to answer questions after the last presentation. All right, and we are on to our final presenter for this evening, Tom Roth, who is not only our conservation chair, but he is also a committee member on our combined sea level rise committee with 2 other chapters of the Sierra Club. So Tom, take it away.
Thank you. Let me find this here. There we go. So hi, everybody. Thank you very much. Some wonderful information that you just heard. And I'm glad to hear that you're almost at the finish line for the Mountains and Rivers, because there's so much more to do. And we're really at the starter line for this project. This is a somewhat unusual for us. It's a collaboration between 3 chapters of the Sierra Club: Redwood, San Francisco Bay, and Loma Prieta. And it has to do with sea level rise. We'll talk a little bit more about that, with a real focus, though, on protecting the bay ecosystem, as well as folks who live there, and especially the vulnerable communities, these low income and very often minority communities around the bay that can get second shrift on this particular issue. So here's our, you saw this map before. We have lots of mountains and rivers and redwoods in the Redwood chapter, but we also have 3 counties that border San Francisco Bay, and that's one reason why we're very much interested: Sonoma, Napa, and Solano counties. Here's our volunteers and chapter staff. Here's San Francisco Bay as seen from space. It's really an ever-changing ecosystem. It's gotten larger, it's gotten smaller, and now it appears to be getting larger again. It's also heavily impacted by human civilization. If you look at all that gray area around it, San Francisco and the East Bay, and then down south, you see that whole San Jose area. But if you look up north, the top of your screen there, you see a lot of green and you'll see some water. And that's basically the area that our chapter, that's our region up there. And it's one of the areas that is actually the best areas for restoration. There's a lot of farmland up there that has been converted or is being converted, or there are plans to be converted into wetlands. So here's the deal on sea level rise. And I'm not going to take time to really explain, what causes it. I think you pretty much know. But as you can see, there are a number of scenarios about what's going to happen and how much sea level rise we're going to have. The extreme scenario is about 7 feet by the turn of the century. And this will be a little bit different at different places, of course. But the thing that we do know is that it's kind of baked in. This has gone on far too long. We've had the planet has been heating up. We're not going to be able to stop it, even if we stopped all emissions tomorrow. So the planet can continue to heat, and we're going to continue to see the kind of melt and the expansion of water molecules that is causing sea level rise. So we have to deal with it. We have to adapt to it. BCDC, oh God, I can't even remember that, but I'm sorry. But BCDC has listed some of the impacts. Here's 5 of them here. You can see more frequent floods, more extensive and longer duration flooding, permanent inundation, shoreline erosion and topping, and something that we rarely think about, but is pretty serious. And that is, we're going to have increased salinity intrusion as the ocean enters further into the bay. It's going to seep into our groundwater. And we've added a 6, our committee, and that's the disruption and destruction of the bay's living ecosystem. All 5 of the above really add up to this. So it's going to threaten the migratory species of the bay, which we have many. We have basically this system of, for salmon, where we have this specific highway that comes through the bay and then goes into the delta and then goes up the Sacramento River system and other rivers. Very important, was once a very important salmon run. It's not quite where it should be. It's mostly wild salmon, not wild salmon, it's farm salmon, hatchery salmon these days. We also have quite a few birds. I think you can count them in the millions that go from north to south and back again, south to north on the Pacific Flyway. And they stop off at San Francisco Bay, which is the largest estuary on the West Coast. We also have a number of native species threatened and endangered. Here's 2 of them here. On the right, you see the clapper rail, and on the left is the saltwater harvest mouse. The mouse is only found here, and it's a very rare creature. It can actually drink salt water, and scientists are really studying that. This is something that we may need to know more about in the future. There's about 1,000 animal species that live on the bay or around the bay, about 130 fish species. So sea rise level issues have been addressed over some time by the Sierra Club and other organizations, but pretty much separately. It hasn't been until the recent, really the year and a half that we've been up and running, that there has been this communication between the chapters and outside organizations. But you can see how many things are happening around the bay, and I think this is only a very partial list. Now, one of the things that we are very concerned about is the traditional approach to floodwaters, or building what is known as gray structures or gray solutions. And those are things that are made out of basically cement and rock. They're very expensive. They have this tendency to deflect wave energy. In other words, the waves may hit them and then they're sent someplace else that may not be as well protected. They require an enormous amount of fill. They limit connectivity between the lowlands and the uplands, and they block migration corridors. So various species can't get where they need to go. And one thing that they often do, too often, and I've actually seen it currently in Marin County, is that they trap stormwater behind them, and that needs to be pumped out. So what we support are nature-based solutions, sustainable, long-lasting, often cheaper, and proven. These are not some sort of wild idea. These are done all over the world, all over the country, and even federal agencies are looking at them, and they've become pretty much the preferred solution. Not always preferred by the local municipalities, but the agencies are really pushing it, very often in combination with more grayer solutions. Like in this picture, they show a seawall at the other end of it. That would be called a hybrid solution. But a nature-based solution basically doesn't destroy habitat, very often creates new habitat. It involves often the creation of new wetlands or restoration of wetlands. Things like horizontal levees, which are very lengthy, low-sloping levees that also can contain habitat for a number of creatures. Things like sand dunes might be part of it. So, and what we're trying to get away from are these very sterile sort of spaces that are just made of cement and rock. One of the things that the 3-chapter committee did was put on this wonderful webinar series. And if you're interested in seeing it, I would say go to the Loma Prieta chapter's website, and there are some links there. I think we used to have it on our website. I'm not sure if we still do, but definitely Loma Prieta has the links. There are 3 parts to this series. There are some experts from various agencies, regulatory agencies, NGOs, scientists. It's an incredible presentation. I think anybody who wants to be brought up to date on sea level rise and how to deal with it should watch this. We've also started this advocacy training, and you can see one of our committee members, that's Myrna Hayes there, out at Mare Island. And there were about 30 people out there, and also other folks that she was talking to her on her cell phone. We did a tour, a part of the island, and discussed the the issues out there with sea level rise. Apparently on the northern end of the island, there's which is the lowest part of the island and the part that is most susceptible to sea level rise, there really is a push for development. And the other side of the island, there was a reserve there, and it's not clear what's going to happen to it. We're also putting together this living document, a policy book, which has position statements for sea level rise. We looked at what the agencies have written about it, and we've looked at what the National Sierra Club's position is, and we've written our own positions based on those two things. This is going to be put up on our website. It's going to be used as an educational document and also a guide for if there are individual campaigns or regional campaigns. This will be the book that the go-to book. So we made some initial progress. The committee, working with other groups, have really brought a stronger environmental emphasis to DC's Bay Adapt and MTAs, that's the Metropolitan Transportation Authority's Planned Bay Area 2050. We were kind of appalled when we looked at some of the drafts that how much the natural environment was given the second shrift on it. I mean, it in some cases it was ignored, or it was just sort of an afterthought. So we really made a push to have these agencies really consider the effects of different kinds of projects and strategies on the natural environment. We've got some action alerts that were coordinated among the 3 chapters. We're creating this new volunteer base. We're communicating with other groups and agencies. And we've got this, certainly this wonderful education webinars and the advocacy education, which is going to continue. So what next? We're talking very much about hiring additional staff so we can move quicker. We're mapping out a sea level rise campaign. We should be launching our website probably the next month or 2. The policy book, which I've been the chair of this committee, it's taken forever to finish, but we are almost there. Hopefully by next month that'll be done. We're continuing the trainings. We may have a new training coming up, and we're working to connect to other groups. One of the issues that has come up with is social justice issues and what would be our stand. We actually developed a chapter on that, and then we decided, wait a second, we can't do that. We need to go out and talk to some of these groups to finish this up, and that's one of the things that's going to be done. Future considerations. Well, we think we're not quite sure whether the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, see, I just remembered BCDC, really has the full authority that it needs to deal with sea level rise. It was actually formed in order to stop fill in the bay. Now, as the bay gets larger, it's got, in some cases, a very different challenge. So it may need some new authority, or we actually may need a new agency. We're talking about developing action teams. These are teams that would be working with locals on various sea level rise issues, participating in advisory committees, coalition building. We're talking with other people. We're not quite sure, whether we actually need to formalize a coalition. That's something that's under discussion. And maybe we're going to have some live conferences in the future as we start taking off our masks. So that's it. We're as I said, we're kind of at the starting gate right now. But the good news is there is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of goodwill among the various agencies that are involved. And we've got some excellent volunteers working on this. So thank you very much.
Tom, thank you. It's been really exciting to watch the 3 chapters come together on this project, and I put a link to the presentation that was conducted last May or whenever that was into the chat. So that's available there if people want to go directly to that. Victoria, I'm going to hand the mic off to you here.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Jeff, for those excellent presentations. So we're here for questions and for dialogue and conversation. We'd like to hear from you, hear what you think about any of this, or what you think about chapter's priorities, what your own might be. We can start with questions about the presentations, but we can go on from there. Fortunately, we're such a small group, we can do this pretty informally. You can put your question in the chat if you'd like, but also just raise your hand either visibly or by using the raise hand function, and I will be delighted to call on you. Debbie.
I had a question about the internship, starting there. How was the chapter supportive of that?
No, I don't think the chapter had involvement. I think it was more than the Napa group directly.
Okay, that's what I had thought, but I thought perhaps there was like some sort of...
I know what we did. We made sure that we helped them make sure that the program was structured in a way that was consistent with the National Sierra Club policy about interns.
Okay, and so did they have some sort of funding, or that was something that they did through their specific group?
It was Napa Group's decision, and yeah, and they're
okay.
Wants to do this.
But so if another group wanted to pick up something like that, would there be the ability to potentially use chapter funding to help make that go?
Well, maybe. It depends. Usually the idea is to use group funding first.
Right, but you might, and yeah, I don't know how much
the chapter is certainly supportive of all of this.
Yeah, so that would be a great, it was an awesome, the whole thing was an awesome presentation. You guys did a fantastic job. So thank you for that, of all 4 different segments. And it would be, I think, of interest to maybe even have some of this stuff, have the kids come and do presentations for each of the groups in the member, for our member meetings that we have in our groups, because I think it's this, in fact, all of these, it could be done as a program to really help promote what the chapter does.
That's one of the reasons why we're recording it. Hey, Jeff.
It's good to have a somebody who knows what questions to ask. Also, would love to hear from Alyssa and Emily. What kind of activity have you done around the gas station moratoriums? And then maybe you could also tee into Deb's earlier question. What was the approach for you in terms of how you got involved in the Napa group? That would be interesting.
Okay, I'll try to explain, and then if Elisa wants to add anything. But so we had gone in, well, we were involved in climate action groups within our district. And then that's how we kind of got connected with like other local leaders, meeting Nick Tronich. But as for gas stations, we actually, Napa Schools for Climate Action is like a youth-led organization that was already pre-existing within Napa County. So we had inherited the group, and we decided that we wanted to be co-leaders. And so we were thinking of a project that we wanted to take on that we felt like best represented us and our interests. And then we launched the Fossil Free Future Project because we wanted to reduce the county's reliance on the fossil fuel industry. And then from there, we kind of started to meet with like local elected officials and just ask around about things that we could do. And we had found out that there were some gas station proposals in my city, American Canyon. So we started attending the city council meetings. We just started like public commenting and things like that, meeting with the American Canyon City Council, and eventually a moratorium was adopted by the council for 45 days. It was an urgency moratorium for the 3 gas station proposals that were in the city, and then it got extended, and like it's just kind of been a chain reaction from there. And then after our names had been like mentioned in the paper, and like we were featured in the Guardian and stuff like that. And so after like our name kind of got spread around a little bit, we had more opportunities to present to the other city councils like Calistoga and St. Helena. But Elisa, do you want to add anything?
Actually, I think Emily explained everything perfectly. I was planning to add something, but she covered pretty much everything. So.
And we've had a lot of support from all of the executive committee members from the Napa Sierra Club group. They keep us up to date on everything because, you know, we're students, so we can't always like stay in touch with what's going on in the different cities. And they give us a lot of good advice. So like it's been really great to be an intern during this time because we have so many great mentors.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hooray on everything that you're doing. It's all fantastic. And I love several aspects. One of them is that you're acknowledging that we need to always educate the next generation, even if the next generation is a lot younger than I am. So I thank you for doing that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I serve on what's called the Congas group in Sonoma County. And I see that you've heard of us. And we've been reasonably successful. So if there's anything that we could do collaboratively, be in touch.
Thank you.
And we don't have Napa representative to the Sea Level Rise Committee.
Hey, do some
Right into that too.
Yeah, because Napa is, of course, one of our 3 counties, one of our 3 groups that's actually on San Francisco Bay. Okay, who's next?
Well, I have another question. So for Jeff with the mountains and really Victoria too with mountains and rivers. So the most important thing, I mean, I will go to the website again. It's been a while since I looked at it, but the most important things that you need from us at this point are what?
I would, well, sign up for the mailing list there, but I think the other key thing is just encouraging Senator Padilla to keep moving. So there's some prompts there to do that as well. The real challenge, I think, is, you know, Congress right now is kind of a 50-50 proposition, depending on the issue. You know, there's just barely a majority. So, you know, honestly, I think it's strange to say, but almost encouraging candidates in other states, honestly, to flip that to a real majority. I think that's going to be the key thing, unless we get attached to some omnibus bill, because it's a pretty fragile situation right now. So I would just send letters, you know, send a note of encouragement to Padilla and of course Jared. You know, Jared's been amazing on the whole thing.
He needs to feel the love. He has been a total champion here, and he needs to know that people appreciate his activities. Encourage him to do some more.
The other thing I want to know is if you guys still have, weren't there bumper stickers and things? I think mine all wore out because I love that logo.
I've got stickers.
Okay.
Stop by and pick some up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I still get emails through the website too. So if anybody is interested, go there, and we'll figure out a way to get you some swag from the campaign.
Yeah. All right. Don't see any other hands raised, which is probably understandable given that it is 6 o'clock on Friday night in November. So I just want to thank you all for coming, and thank our presenters for their fascinating information they provided, and particularly thank Emily and Alyssa for sharing their activities. I'm really blown away by what you guys are doing. Yeah. And we may call on you to present to some of the other groups to try to get a similar program started elsewhere. And for everybody else, thank you for your ongoing support, and we will be en route.
Yeah, I just wanted to, whichever of you knows, maybe it's Shoshana, I'm not sure, but this is being recorded. Where will the recording be posted so that those of you who presented can, you know, show off and maybe use it for some of your own presentations later, but also people who are on the call might want to say, I'm sorry you couldn't make it, but you can watch it here.
Yeah, good question, Rue. So I imagine we're going to be
YouTube.
put it on YouTube, and we'll have a link to that and embedded on our website, which is sierraclub.org/redwood.
Yeah, and just go on YouTube and search for Sierra Club in Redwood, and you will find us. We're recording all of these presentations that have been done over the past year and a half when we can't be in person together.
Can the link be sent to all the people who were invited this evening so they maybe were able to come?
Great idea.
Yep.
Great idea.
And all the speakers should have access to it too. That way a direct link makes it easier to spread if you don't know you don't know how to find Redwood.
Yep, and for the individual speakers too, I think one other thing we'd like to do that I've learned through attrition is we'll edit these down to your individual presentation as well. So if you want to use that in the future and share it, just so you've got your own solo piece, we can make that available as well.
Okay, great. All right, last call before we all break up for our weekend and our evening.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Great to see everybody.
Thank you all for coming, and stay safe, and we will get together again in the future, I hope so.
Thank you all.
Good night.